everyone. My name is Reverend Takashi Miyaji. And today I wanted to talk about how we can see Buddhist teachings play out in everyday life. One of the ways that we can do this is through none other than good old music, right? And I'm sure that many of you watching right now have been influenced by music in one way or another. In fact, it would be hard to imagine a world without music and without the artistic creativity of the human mind. There are so many types of music, so many different forms, that it's kind of hard exactly how to define music, right, in many respects. Yet we all know what it is when we hear it, right? It would be interesting to hear some of your thoughts on what music is. According to the Three Pure Land Sutras, there is references made about how the Dharma will sound like music in the Pure Land. In Amida Sutra, it writes, quote, Shariputra, in that Buddha land, there is always celestial music to be heard, end quote. And then it continues to state, quote, 6 times a day, all of these birds melodiously sing in elegant harmony, their sound proclaiming such teachings as the 5 faculties, the 5 powers, the 7 factors for awakening, and the eightfold noble path. When the people of that land hear those birds singing, they all become mindful of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, end quote. And this is from the Amida Sutra, or the smaller sutra. So we see how music brings one to be mindful of the Buddha. And furthermore, we can hear the melodious singing of the Dharma, not through our own volition, but through the environment which we find ourselves in. In this case, it would be Amida Buddha's Pure Land. When we think about this, it's not hard to imagine that profound messages can be found through the power of music. Music is different across cultures, across different histories in time. And that is because of the simple fact of karma. The karmic background of a collective society at a given space and time will give rise to a specific taste in music. An individual's karmic background will give rise to what kind of music will speak to that individual. So if you have a lot of rock songs from the 60s, on your playlist, right? That's not on accident. That happened because more likely than not, you grew up during that time era when you were greatly influenced by the music culture at that time. If you like classical music, your karmic background in a specific context in space and time gave rise to you liking that specific genre of music. The clothes that we wear, the food that we eat, the way that we talk even, and the things that we are likely to be thinking are all influenced by this context of space and time. And this is known as karma. My karma led me to grow up with a very specific fondness in a very particular form of music. And this is hip hop, R&B, and soul, among others. That's because I grew up in the 90s in Southern California. And, this was the kind of music that the kids listened to during that time. So I was very fond of music, right? So fond of it, in fact, that I suddenly found the urge to buy 2 turntables and a mixer and learn how to DJ. My brother bought me my first records, which were Rod Neo and Joe Cooley's song called Everlasting Bass. I don't know if you know what that is. And this scratch record by DJ Rectangle. So with the help of a neighbor who taught me the basic skills of DJing, I eventually started doing gigs like, house parties, weddings, and clubs and birthday parties and these kinds of things. Again, this was a long, long time ago, back when I didn't get dizzy bobbing my head. But, this was my hobby, right? So some people had basketball, other people had, were very, very interested in cars, right? Other people were interested in girls, right? I wasn't good at any of those things, right? So I went into music, I went into DJing, right? And so my life kind of centered around music for a large part. So even though those days are over, I actually find, um, actually in today's time, I actually find a lot of the music that I grew up listening to quite offensive and downright ignorant from a Buddhist standpoint. But nevertheless, I mainly kind of go back to these songs that I listened to as I was growing up because, um, I mainly listen to it for the beat now, for the music, just, just the music, not really the lyrics, but also because it's kind of, natsukashi, as they say in Japanese. It's nostalgic, right? We can go back to it. And this, I grew up listening to this stuff, so it's kind of hard to get away from it. But today what I wanted to do is kind of talk about how we can possibly look at the music that I grew up listening to, and trying to understand them from a Buddhist standpoint, trying to see them in the lens of Buddhism and seeing what I can interpret from those lyrics. So, and this is not to say that Buddhism and hip hop have the same message, right? They certainly don't for the most part, but it is to say that, through all forms of music, right, there is still Amida Buddha's calling voice there, I think. And maybe it's not through the intention of the writers or the musicians, but we as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists can hear the voiceless voice of Amida Buddha, even through the loud sounds of the bass, right? Amida Buddha's calling is everywhere. And here is how we can hear that.